Investiture of the Gods, Chapter 35.
We're setting the scene in the capital, Chao. It's a moment of, well, total crisis for King Zhu. He's facing the rise of West Qi, led by the famous strategist Jiang.
That's right. And the source material we're digging into today, it really details this perfect storm. You've got a major defection shaking things up.
The big one.
A panicked military council completely split on what to do. And then this big military mission that follows.
Supposed to be reconnaissance, right? Just scouting.
Supposedly.
Mm-hmm.
But it ends up being this, well, spectacular and pretty humiliating failure.
So our mission for you, the listener, is to kind of unpack why this regime, which seems so powerful, I mean, superhuman generals, vast resources, why it was already basically doomed.
Exactly. This isn't just about battles. It's about how fate, maybe divine fate, bumps up against human plans.
And maybe how political rot, that moral corruption, can just completely undermine even the best generals in a civil war like this.
Okay, so let's get into it. We should probably start with the man who had the, let's say, unenviable task of defending the dynasty at this point. Grand Tutor Wenzong, Wen Taishi.
Right. And Wenzong, he's not just some general in the sources, is he? He's painted as the Shan dynasty's, ultimate weapon, almost a wizard general.
Oh, absolutely. Disciple of Our Lady Jinling of Bayou Palace. That's serious supernatural credentials we're talking about.
Yeah, so this is a guy who wasn't operating on the same level as regular soldiers. The texts say he mastered the 5 elements, could reverse seas, move mountains.
His abilities were, well, legendary, according to the accounts. Predicting victory just by, reading the wind, figuring out the whole military situation by analyzing dirt. Seriously powerful stuff.
He sounds like the most powerful asset the Shang had. Militarily, spiritually, the whole deal.
Pretty much. Yet, despite all these incredible, almost godlike powers, he fails. Big time. Fails to recapture the defecting general, Huang Feihu.
And the reason given. He was repelled by something called the divine sand, from the true lord of virtue.
Yeah, the divine sand. It sounds mystical, obviously, but it signals something really important. The forces backing the Zhou dynasty, West Qi, they already had superior supernatural protection.
Okay, so outside forces are working against him.
Right. But the failure wasn't just external. It triggered this huge internal moment of realization for Wenzong himself.
Wait a second, though. If he's got these amazing powers, reading the wind, the soil, shouldn't he have seen this coming? Why is he only realizing the cosmic clock ran out? After he fails to grab one general.
That's a great point, and that's what makes his reflection so interesting. He doesn't blame the sand or say, oh, I messed up. No. When he gets back to the capital, Shej, he looks at everything that's happening, and he concludes his failure was down to yin and yang crossing.
Which is basically a mythological way of saying.
The whole cosmic order is flipped. He realizes, and this is the key quote, that heaven's number had already reverted to the Lord of Zhou. Fate had switched sides.
Wow. So the dynasty's chief defender, their ultimate weapon, basically realizes the war is already divinely decided against them. And his skill, no matter how great, doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah. Imagine being that commander. It's got to be profoundly crushing.
Utterly demoralizing.
And it's as soon as he accepts this spiritual defeat, the bad news just starts flooding in, militarily. He gets back to Chao, probably wanting to rally the troops, fight fate anyway.
Instead,
he's just immediately hit with report after report, disaster after disaster on the battlefield, confirming everything he just realized.
A cascade of collapse, you said. What were they?
Okay, so first, Lingtong Pass. We hear Zhao Yan killed Zhang Feng and managed to free Huang Feihu, the guy Wenzong failed to catch.
Okay, strike one.
Then, Tong Pass. Huang Feihu himself kills Chen Tong. Then Tuanyun Pass, another general, Chen Wu, killed.
It's just falling apart pass by pass.
And then maybe the worst blow, psychologically, Jipai Pass. Huang Feihu's own father, Huang Gun, lets his son pass through to join West Qi, a total betrayal from within the ranks.
Ouch, that's gotta sting. Family turning against the dynasty.
Right. And then finally, icing on the cake, an urgent distress message from Han Rong at Sishui Pass, basically saying the last major defensive line is buckling.
So every line of defense is just crumbling. And not just from invasion, but from the inside out. Betrayal, commanders getting killed. It sounds like the whole structure is rotten.
Exactly. It's the sound of a dynasty collapsing internally. So Facing that reality, Wenzong has to somehow put aside his, divine despair and actually lead a war council.
Right, back to the practicalities. Strategy time.
And this is where that spiritual realization just slams head-on into his political duty. Wenzong, even though he knows fate's against them, he's furious.
Understandably.
He talks about his solemn duty, that heavy, critical responsibility given to him by the last king, the dead king, protect the dynasty. It's like the ultimate promise.
So, driven by this oath, he basically says, forget fate, we attack NWE. A massive, punitive campaign against West Qi. He's going to go down fighting as a loyal minister.
Exactly. But then General Lu Xiang steps up, and he brings a big dose of cold, hard, non-magical reality to the table.
Okay, the pragmatist arrives.
Very much so. Lu Xiang basically tells the Grand Tutor, hold on, we're stretched way too thin.
What are his arguments? Logistics, right?
Pure logistics. He points out, look, the South is already fighting Yishun. The East is tied up with Jiang Wenhuan. We're fighting on multiple fronts already. The troops are exhausted.
Makes sense.
And the killer argument, the money. The treasury is, quote, empty and money and grain are insufficient. There's nothing left to fund a massive new offensive.
So sending the main army out now would just finish them off through exhaustion, basically. West Qi wouldn't even have to do much.
That's Lu Xiang's point. He pushes for strong defense instead. Let's hold the 5 passes, reinforce Qinglong and Jimeng passes, save our resources, and maybe West Qi will overextend themselves later. It's that classic skilled in both defense and offense idea.
Secure the base first. Conserve strength.
Right. But Wenzong pushes back. He rejects that caution. Why? Because he's not just looking at numbers, he's looking at the talent on the other side.
Ah, the quality of West Qi's leadership.
Exactly. He says we cannot wait. Delaying just gives West Qi time to get organized under their star players.
Who does he single out?
Nan Gongxi, described as brave throughout the 3 armies. San Yusheng, the strategist with 100 plans, basically a political genius. And of course,
Jiang Sheng, the master strategist. The guy whose side fate or heaven seems to be on now.
The very same. When Zhang uses this really potent phrase, if 1 step is empty, 100 steps are empty. We can't afford any slip-up, any delay, because the guys on the other side are just too good. We have to prepare immediately.
So you've got this clash. Sacred duty versus financial ruin. Honor versus logistics. How do they resolve it?
Well, the council is stuck, right? So they land on a compromise, actually suggested by Lu Xiang, the cautious one.
Okay, what's the middle ground?
No massive army mobilization, not yet. Instead, they'll send just 1 or 2 generals to scout West Qi, figure out how ready they actually are before committing everything.
A reconnaissance mission. Makes sense. Seems prudent.
It seems prudent. So General Chao immediately volunteers, says he'll take his brother, Chao and go check things out. His specific mission, explore the reality and falsity, see what West Qi is really up to.
Okay, volunteer step up. Sounds good.
Yeah.
How many men do they take for this scouting trip?
Well, this is where the Shang dynasty's, let's call it arrogance, just blows the whole compromise out of the water.
Well,
The sources say Chao takes a formidable force.
how formidable? Like a few hundred? 1,000?
30,000.
30,000 for a scouting mission?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
30,000 men. It's completely nuts. It's like sending a nuclear submarine to check if your neighbor's lights are on.
That completely defeats the purpose of scouting. It's not subtle. It's basically an invasion force.
Exactly. It shows the Shang mindset. They couldn't even think about reconnaissance without it being this massive show of force. It immediately gives away their hostile intent and, uses up resources they supposedly didn't have.
And I bet this massive scouting party wasn't exactly quiet.
Oh, the sources paint a picture. Roaring cannons, shaking drums. The men are like fierce tigers leaving the mountain. The horses like water dragons, banners flying, armor shining. It was a huge spectacle. Magnificent, maybe, but stealthy. Not a chance.
So obviously West Qi notices.
Instantly. We're told Jiang Ziya is just sitting in his administrative hall, and he's completely surprised by the thunderous noise of an approaching army.
Wasn't expecting it. Not at all. He asks, why is Cheng Tang raising troops to invade? Which confirms it right there. Chao Tian's mission failed its primary goal, subtle intelligence gathering, the second they marched out with that huge, noisy army.
Okay, so they arrive,
Yeah.
this massive force. What do? Set up camp? Try to observe quietly from a distance.
Nope. They see West Qi, and it looks to them like they're unprepared for a big assault. So Chao Tian and Chao Lei decide, forget caution, let's issue a challenge.
Seriously, they ditch the whole scout idea and just decide to fight.
Pretty much. Chao rides up to the front and demands West Qi's surrender.
And this leads us to that ideological showdown you mentioned earlier. Who comes out from West Qi?
Nan Gongxi accepts the challenge, the same guy Wen Zong was worried about, the one known for his bravery.
Okay, so Chao issues the challenge. What's his demand?
Standard military threat, basically. Hand over the rebel Hong Feihu immediately, or we'll destroy you, your city will be flattened, etc.
Pretty standard stuff for the time, I guess.
Yeah.
How does Nan Gongxi respond? Does he call his bluff?
He does something much smarter and much more devastating. He completely ignores the military threat. Doesn't even address the 30,000 soldiers.
What does he do instead?
He launches into this long, incredibly detailed public takedown of King Zu's moral failures. He basically uses the king's own evil deeds as a weapon.
The propaganda angle.
Yeah.
Weaponizing the corruption Wenzong already sensed.
Exactly. And it's not vague stuff. He lists specific, horrific crimes mentioned in the sources. Accuses King Zu of hazing ministers, literally mincing them into paste. Of killing another minister, Yuan Shi.
Gruesome.
He talks about the powwow, that infamous torture device. The greased, heated bronze pillar officials were forced to walk across until they burned alive.
Yeah, I've read about that. Horrific.
And the snake pit, the chapin, throwing people into pits of poisonous snakes. These aren't just insults. They're specific atrocities being laid bare in front of Chao army.
He's undermining their entire reason for being there. What else?
He hits closer to home, talking about King Zu killing his own uncle just to test his loyalty, building the ridiculously extravagant Lutai pleasure tower while the kingdom suffered.
Just piling on the evidence of tyranny.
And then the ultimate charge, destroying the 5 cardinal relationships, which basically means shattering the whole moral and social order, specifically mentioning the abuse of ministers' wives. It's a fundamental attack on the king's right to rule.
So West Qi isn't just fighting war, they're framing it as, what, a moral crusade?
Precisely. Nan Gongxi follows up by saying West Qi rules through benevolence, through filial piety, and look, he says it's working. He claims 2/3 of the kingdom already submits to West. Righteousness is winning hearts and minds is the message.
Wow, so he just completely sidestepped the military threat and went straight for the moral jugular in front of the invading army. Their morale must have just plummeted.
You have to imagine it did. He wasn't just talking trash, he was articulating why the Shang dynasty deserved to fall, using the king's own actions. That public condemnation was probably more damaging than any weapon.
Okay, so after this verbal destruction, did they actually fight?
They do. The duel starts between Chao and Nan Gongxi. It goes for about 30 rounds, the sources say.
And was Chao any match?
Not really. It seems Nan Gongxi was clearly the superior fighter. Chao is quickly described as being reduced to strength exhausted, tendons strained. He's completely outclassed.
So Nan Gongxi finishes him off.
He doesn't kill him. He uses a feint, a trick. The source calls it a pojan. An opening or flaw catches Chao completely off guard, captures him alive, ties him up with rope, and just drags him back into West Qi as a prisoner.
Just like that. The whole massive 30,000-man scouting mission ends with one of the commanders captured after maybe an hour.
Pretty much. Total failure. Utter humiliation.
Right after a Zhu general, Nan Gongxi, captures one of the brothers, Chao, he's brought before Ziya, and instead of, being humble or scared, Chao just stands there and wow, he really lets fly with an insult.
He does more than just refuse to kneel. He tries to basically shatter Ziya's authority right there in front of everyone. Calls him a small person who used to weave fences and sell flour, a real public jab at his origins.
How big a deal was that insult calling him a fence weaver, especially in front of this newly formed army? Did it actually risk undermining him?
Oh, it was a very calculated, very strategic insult. See, Ziya rose purely on merit, right? Not birth. And the text even says his own generals were sort of snickering secretly. If Ziya lost his cool or got defensive, well, that could have fractured everything. He needed the perfect response.
Then he fined it. He addresses the insult directly, says it doesn't shame him, then immediately brings up the example of Yi Yin, who was also a commoner before becoming this key minister for Tang, a revered ancient ruler.
Exactly. That reference is pure gold for the Zhu argument about meritocracy. He's invoking this old idea of meet late or early talent gets recognized eventually, regardless of where you start. By linking himself to Yin, he's essentially saying, look, my worth is proven by what I do, not who my parents were. It completely shuts down that potential descent among his own team and boosts his authority based on ability. Vital for a rising power like Zhu.
That's quite a lesson in leadership, isn't it? Turning an attack on your background into a defense of your core principles. But initially, Ziya orders Chao executed. Was that just for Show? To seem tough? Or was it like setting the stage for what comes next?
Probably a bit of both. He had to show he wouldn't tolerate that kind of public challenge. But yeah, the ultimate goal seems to have been recruitment all along, which is why Huang Feihu, the Wucheng king, steps in right away.
Ah, okay. So Feihu stops the execution, argues Chao should be spared, turned to their side, says he could provide an arm strength later, and Ziya agrees immediately. It shows that for Zhu, mercy and recruitment were maybe more valuable tools than just simple revenge.
Absolutely. And once the execution is off the table, the game shifts. It's no longer about punishment, it's about persuasion. Feihu takes center stage, addressing Chao, who is now, finally, on his knees.
Feihu's pitch is fascinating. He doesn't just talk ideals. He says Chao is basically ignorant of timing, terrain, and the will of the people. So what were the main sort of practical points he used to argue for defection?
Well, Feihu uses his own recent defection as proof, which lends a lot of weight. First, he hits the military reality hard. He says Zhu already controls, three parts of the empire. The momentum has shifted. The regions don't respect King Zhu anymore.
So he's basically saying, look at the map. Continuing with Shang is just a bad bet.
Pretty much. The numbers are against them. Second point is about King Zhu himself. Feihu describes his power as fleeting, like old strength and spring chill. It looks strong on the surface maybe, but it's fundamentally weak and fading. And the king's crimes. Feihu argues they guarantee this conflict won't end until Shang falls.
Then comes the moral justification, linking King Wu's virtue to the ancient sages, Yao and Shen, tying it all back to the mandate of heaven, saying this change is, well, historically and morally necessary.
And the final punch is personal. It's his own story. He points out his title change from the Wucheng king who defends the nation to the one who opens the nation for Zhu. He's essentially saying, look, I was Shang's biggest defender, and even I switched. That proves the world is turning towards Zhu.
Wow, that is really persuasive. And it works. Chao is convinced. The text says his heart bright and meaning clear. He surrenders, but then he worries. He's like, will Ziya actually forgive me after I insulted him so badly?
And Ziya's response seals the deal. He accepts the surrender, states clearly that killing those who surrender is unrighteous. It sets a standard. Zhu rewards conversion. So Chao is welcomed in, becomes one of the court, and he even promises to recruit his brother Chao Tian, who's still outside the city.
Okay, and this is where we hit that major twist. Chao's conversion seems genuine, politically speaking, but it immediately runs headlong into this much deeper personal conflict.
Exactly. This is the core tension of the whole story. Political duty versus family loyalty, filial piety. Chao meets his brother Chao Tian, and Chao Tian is absolutely furious. Calls him a deserving-to-die villain for being swayed by Feihu's clever words.
And the reason for that? Anger cuts right to the bone, doesn't it? Chao Tian reveals the real problem. Their parents, wife, children, they're all still back in the Shang capital, Chao's.
Yeah.
If the brothers defect openly, King Zhu will execute the entire family instantly. So their political choice is kind of irrelevant because of this family obligation.
Filial piety is paramount. It trumps pretty much everything else in this context. So Chao Tian cooks up a scheme to try and save the family. Chao has to go back and tell Ziya that Chao Tian needs a formal invitation from a top general, specifically Huang Feihu, to come into the camp.
And this request has two goals, right? One, it gives Chao Tian the perfect setup for an ambush. And two, it lets the brothers pretend they were just following King Zhu's orders all along, which hopefully protects their family back in Chao's.
Precisely. It's a pretty clever double-cross attempt, designed to lure a really valuable target like Feihu out into the open. But they seriously underestimated Jiang Ziya.
Right. The moment Chao comes back with this request for a formal invitation, Ziya pauses, and his comment is just perfect. So your older brother requires an invitation. He gets it immediately. The text says, I knew the trickery of this villain.
Ziya saw right through it. He knew these were military men. The sudden demand for aristocratic ceremony, it just screamed deceit. But instead of calling them out right then, he plays along. He decides to turn their own trap against them.
So he agrees to send Huang Feihu, just like they asked. But then he activates this triple-layered counterplan. Can we break that down? It sounds really complex. Why 3 groups? How did he know where they'd go?
Yeah, this is where you see his genius for anticipation. He figures out their intent capture Feihu and their likely next move, flee back towards the Shang border passes as fast as possible. So he needs forces ready at the ambush spot and along that escape route.
Okay, so Feihu and Chao go together. They're basically the bait.
Correct. Then, the first response team, Jiya and Jinmian, They leave quickly with a note telling them exactly where to intercept the fleeing Shang troops' Dragon's Mouth Pass. He anticipates the escape path.
And the third layer, what's that for?
That's Nangongshi, the general who caught Chao Lei in the first place. He gets a second note telling him to wait in the Qishan area. Now, this is key. Qishan is rugged, unfamiliar territory for the Shang guys. It's a natural choke point for anyone just fleeing randomly through the mountains if the main escape is blocked.
Wow, that's incredibly precise deployment. Ziya wasn't just guessing they'd double-cross him. He predicted the ambush location and the only two logical escape routes.
Which is exactly why the ambush itself works for the chaos, but falls apart immediately after. Fei Hu walks right into the trap. Chao Tian yells, "Seize him!" He's captured, stripped, bound. Chao Tian's thrilled, thinks he scored this huge win, orders a fast retreat to the passes.
But that celebration lasts, what, about 35 miles? Maybe 11, 12 miles? Because bam, they run straight into the first counter trap. Jiya and Mian are waiting at Dragon's Mouth Pass.
And it's instant chaos. Jiya takes on Chao Tian. Mian rescues Fei Hu, who is, understandably, furious and humiliated. Chao Lei sees the whole plan is blown and just bolts. He flees the scene immediately. Fei Hu, now free, quickly captures Chao Tian.
And Fei Hu's taunt is just great, reminding Chao Tian this was all part of Ziya's plan. You cannot escape the marvelous scheme and excellent calculation of Prime Minister Jiang.
But it's not quite over for Chao Lei, the original defector. He's running scared, lost in the Shiki Mountains. Then, around the second watch, maybe midnight, 1 a.m., he stumbles onto a main road.
And runs right into Nangongshi, who's been patiently waiting in the Qishan area, just like Ziya ordered. The final layer of the trap springs shut.
So the two brothers, caught by their own plan, are dragged back before Ziya at dawn. Ziya congratulates his generals, basically saying, "See, told you so. It did not go beyond my expectation." He underlines his victory by ordering them both executed, dismissing them as children or juniors.
Wait, why execute them now? He must know by this point there's more to it. Is this another strategic move?
Oh, absolutely. This feels like Ziya's final play to get the absolute truth out of them, cutting through any lingering political excuses. Because as Chao Lei is being dragged off, he cries out, "Injustice." Ziya pulls him back, asks how such an obvious plot could possibly be called injustice. And that's when Chao Lei finally breaks. He confesses everything.
The whole deception wasn't about loyalty to King Zhu at all. It was purely about trying to save their parents back in Chao's. They were actually convinced by Fei Hu's arguments for Zhu, but they felt trapped they couldn't join Zhu without sacrificing their family.
And this confession changes the game again. Ziya confirms the family situation with Huang Fei Hu. He realizes he's not dealing with simple treachery anymore, but with this profound conflict of loyalties, driven by filial piety. It's a human constraint, not just political maneuvering.
The final resolution is just brilliant. Ziya pardons them, but it's conditional, strategic.
Right. He lets Chao Tian go as a gesture of good faith, but he keeps Chao Lei as a Z, essentially a hostage, to ensure cooperation. Then he sends Chao Tian back to Chaoj, but with a letter, with specific instructions from Ziya. Their new mission, now officially sanctioned by Zhu, is to figure out a safe way to get the entire family out of the Shang capital.